Krishna, everyone. All glories to Ayendra Prabhu, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, and all the previous acharyas back to Lord Chaitanya, and then back to Lord Brahma, Lord Shri Krishna. Are you ready for this? So check this out. The lighting today just happens to be just right, and it creates this really interesting, awesome bluish effect on the screen, like a grayish bluish. I'm like, that's pretty epic, man. So I was going to close the windows, but I think it actually looks kind of cool, so I'm going to just go with it. All right, so been looking forward to this one for an extremely long time. So last couple weeks I've been going over this video again and again and again, top to bottom, to see what the encoding is, to confirm it, etc., etc. You guys have seen this. You guys know what's been going on this whole week. You've seen the number 4 and 7 all over the frickin' place, over and over and over again. 666, all this stuff, 666. So many timings, so many, just everything. And it makes sense because the song, this is the next one on the directly encoded list. So yes, this song is directly encoded by Radha and Krishna. And this song is specifically encoded for us. So myself, you, yourselves, the devotees in this group. Hey, thank you for joining us. Aloysius Augustus, I hope I pronounced that correctly. We're just going to wait a few minutes till maybe a few more pour in, and we'll get started at about the 5-minute mark, thereabouts. So, some background on this song. If any of you have not so far yet watched the songs directly encoded by Shri Radha series that is on YouTube, I highly encourage you to do so. I have a list so far of 4 songs, this being the 4th on there. We've so far covered 2 in a video. Hey, welcome Andromeda, thank you for joining us. So I've so far covered 2 videos that have been directly encoded and proven to be so last couple weeks, and there's a 3rd one that we're still needing to cover, and this one is the 4th in the list. So the first encoded song was called Open Your Heart by Madonna. Now, these songs are encoded by Radha and Krishna without the knowledge of the producers or the musicians. Keep this in mind, okay? Now, they particularly choose these individuals and timings, etc., because these line up with the activities of pure devotees and line up very specifically with activities taking place in the world of Krishna consciousness at large, okay? So, in all these songs, they encode without the knowledge of the ones putting them together. Hey, welcome, Connor. So I encourage you to watch over those videos, look at the encoding in them, watch them over thoroughly, and then the encoding in this video will actually make sense, because this video is a direct carry-on from those other 3 encoded videos. And they're all by different artists, which is very interesting, and done at different times, okay? So I'm going to see if Andrew Taylor, Ishvari, or Mati Hyrule hop in, because they've been heavily involved in this over the last week or so. So yes, this is very cool. So some background on how we came across this song and discovered it. So I was talking to Andrew Taylor, my other devotee friend from Utah, and he was specifically fascinated by this encoded video topic, right? So in the other encoded videos, we explain very clearly what the criteria is for a directly encoded song to be provable to the public, okay? Because the fact of the matter is, everything in the material world, from top to bottom, everything is directly encoded by Radha and Krishna for each of us. And different things are encoded for different individuals, right? So technically speaking, everything is directly encoded, yes. But what we refer to as something being directly encoded is something that is encoded for all devotees across the board and provable publicly, okay? So yes, many other things are encoded directly. And so this is what he was asking me about. Hey, can you tell me about some more encoded videos you found that aren't provable publicly, that are maybe meant more for specific things? And I said, yes, there's plenty of them. So we were going through a list, and there's one named For by an artist named Wigfield. It's called Forever, the song. And after he watched this song, he immediately looked up other music videos that had the number 4 in them. And sure enough, this one is the very first one that popped up. So I'll show it to you right now. Since I'm not a super tech-savvy person yet, I just physically will use my tablet for this. So this is one of the first scenes in the music video. It's called 7, and it's by Prince and the New Power Generation. Okay? So he came across this video, and I watched it over. At first, I looked at it. I felt like it could be, but I had to make sure. So I watched it over and over and over. And every time I watched it over, more and more kept getting revealed in the process. So eventually, it got like to the second day or whatever, and then we started seeing these numbers 7 pop up everywhere. There were the timings of this song was done lined up very specifically with the previous encoded song. So many other things lining up with specific historical incidents relating to devotional service, what's happening currently now. So we started getting bombarded with numbers all over the place that were just lining up with this 444, 777 constantly. And we have a lot of video evidence of this actually having taken place amongst many devotees, not just myself. So yeah, aside from the proof itself that's in the video, which you will see here, the proof as well has been taking place amidst all of us in terms of what we've been experiencing in our lives directly. So, okay. So, what we're going to do is we're going to first go into the timing of this one. So this one was done 7 years, exactly 7 years after the Madonna song, Open Your Heart, okay, which was done in 1986 and released to the public on November 19th. This one actually was almost exactly 7 years, but it was literally 2 days before. So 7 years and 2 days before the release of the Madonna song. So Madonna's was released on November 19th, 1986, and this one was released on November 17th, 1986. Or I should say, this one was released in 1992. I'm sorry about that. This one was released in 1992, November 16th, November 17th, and Madonna's was released in 1986, exactly 7 years before, on November 19th. Okay, and this is actually shown in the video. It was very interesting. So, this is the first scene. Now, immediately, you guys looking at this, what do you see? Obviously, we see the blackish and then the blue. As you know, Krishna, his color is blackish, and when he emanates the light from his form, you get the bluish color. Okay, and of course there's 7 in the back. There's a city, so they're running towards a city here, a palace which is above the waters, and you'll notice the blue moon symbolism as well. So of course we all know the saying, once in a blue moon. It's referring to something that happens very rarely and not often. And of course the blue color is referring to Shri Krishna, the path of Krishna consciousness, which they're walking on. Now they're walking towards a city / temple setting type location here with the 7 on top. Now the 7 are referring to the 7 false pseudo-devotional philosophies, okay, which are pervasive all throughout time. And there are other pseudo-devotional philosophies too, but there's 7 main ones that always pop up, and you can pretty much classify any deviant teaching or any misunderstood teaching or any misleading teaching into these 7 main categories, okay, which we'll discuss what these are. So this is immediately the first scene. Now we'll press play here. Let's see, here we go. Okay, imagine a little girl in a mirror. Imagine a mirror with a little girl crying inside. Okay, so this is very interesting because what's being shown here now, you're going to see this father character is going to be murdered. Okay, so the $10 billion estate. Hey, welcome Ishvara Nadani. We just got into it actually. So the $10 billion estate, this could be referring to any number of different things. I'm still in the process of trying to determine exactly what the 10 billion is referring to. It could very well, this is possible, be referring to the world population in around 2050, close to the year 2050. So at the year 2050, the population's expected to be at about 11 billion, so close to that. So the 2040s, and that's expected when all the singularity stuff's going to play out with all these, like a lot of the atheistic scientists and stuff, they're really planning stuff for the late 2040s. So this will be very interesting to see. My gut feeling on it is it's referring to the world population at around that time, and also it could be referring to so many other things, a monetary amount related to Krishna consciousness, our movement. It says so many other things. So that's one thing I'm still yet to determine 100% what it's referring to, but I have some ideas. The rest of it is extremely obvious, though, as we will see. Okay, let's see here. Let's get it to play again. Now, of course, he's being... They watch her every move as her heart grows colder and colder till she meets you. Now, this you that's being referred to is referring to you, the devotee, you individually. This is So what Shri Radha herself is sending us all a message through this. Okay, she's specifically referring to each and every devotee, okay, who's functioning independently, individually, without a temple, without support, without help. And the devotees who are actually sincerely following the actual path of Krishna consciousness, with or without assistance, which is the engagement in daily Harinama Sankirtana, individually, the devotees who are doing this wherever they're at. These are the ones she's especially talking to, but this will apply to more and more devotees as time goes on. This is what's being referred to. Now, you'll notice, when she's talking to him, he was wearing black over the eyes, right? Like a checkered black thing. And he's also wearing a black collar. Now, those of you who are familiar with the previous video, Heaven is a Place on Earth, the black collars is referring to the artistic types, the eccentric thinkers. So the individuals who think outside the box, who think creatively, abstractly. Individuals who do not require constant scriptural references for understanding things intuitively. Individuals basically who can understand concepts and principles of deep devotional truth beyond words, beyond information. Okay, these are the black collars, and this is what's being symbolized by the prince character here. He himself was also known for being that type of an individual in his life. Now, what she's saying here, you'll notice she's wearing red now, a red hat and then red clothing. Now, we all know who red is referring to, don't we, when we see this clothing? This is referring to Shri Radha expanding herself as Gadadhara Pandita. Now, the reasons she's being shown as red here is because the red reference, the clothing reference that Gadadhara Pandita wears in Chaitanya Lila, this has to do with Shri Radha's mood being taken from her. It's a loving, fun pastime by Shri Krishna himself, okay? So this is why we're seeing red right now. This is also referring to passion and the desire to have things back, okay? What is she talking about now? She's talking about getting things back and not allowing the seven to find them. Now, Shri Radha's father, Shri Radha is Satyabhama. If you read the histories, the devotional histories, you will all know, hey, welcome, Hadi. You'll all know that Shri Radha's father was literally killed. Like when Krishna appeared on the earth, Satyajit, her dad, was actually killed. Okay? So the individual who killed him was, I believe it was Shatadanva was the name of that individual. And then, unless I'm mistaken, but yes, I'm almost positive that was his name, the one who actually killed him. And then, of course, Kripacharya, or Kritavarma was involved in the conspiracy to murder her father. And also, Akrura was also involved in this conspiracy. Now, this is a very interesting thing, which we'll discuss later. So, they were literally involved in the conspiracy. Now, these are devotees, keeping this in mind. But they were involved in the conspiracy to actually murder Shri Radha's father, her pastime father. Now, her biological father, or I should say transcendental biological father, or original father, is Vrishabhanu in Vrindavana. He does not get killed or slain. But her pastime father, because she transfers herself over to Dvaraka as Satyabhama, and then Chandravali transfers herself over as Rukmini, her pastime father, Satyajit, in that pastime series, is her pastime father. So she considers him a father, just like her father Vrishabhanu. Very important to remember. But he actually gets killed. Literally, he gets stabbed. So this is actually part of what's being referred to in this. But also, what's being referred to is Prabhupada being killed, poisoned. We all know this has happened. The evidence is here now. We know this took place. And Ayendra Prabhu also being killed. Now, the father reference is not only talking about a literal father, it's talking about the symbolic father. So father means the individual who originally preaches correctly or spreads the original truth about something. Okay? The father of a movement, the father of etc. So Prabhupada is the father of what we understand today as the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and Ayendra Prabhu is the father of the 24-hour Harinama Sankirtana. Okay? And obviously, Shri Radha's literal actual father also was literally murdered. So we're seeing three different references of three different individuals being murdered here all at once in this one thing. Okay? So, but ultimately this will lead to great auspiciousness. So there's no question of things ultimately being disastrous or horrible in the ultimate issue. But everything is a pastime and will lead to the greatest results. So here's the symbolism, the being slain. And the chains. Okay, so we're going to now the chains. What are they referring to? And the chains, they must never find them. The chain she was referring to is the 4 chains of disciplic succession. Okay? So the chains of disciplic succession, These are also referred to as chains in the scriptures. We know this very well. And the link in the chain must be continual. But this is very interesting. The chains of disciplic succession can be used to strangle people, okay, and literally choke them to death. This is also what she's referring to here. This takes the form of people belonging to one of the sampradayas, but misusing the teachings thereof for their own gain, to murder others, to harm others, etc., etc. Okay, so she's talking about individuals being part of the or being involved with these sampradayas. But what she's saying is they must never find them. She's saying that these individuals must never actually find the individuals truly following the teachings of the four sampradayas. That's what she's talking about. Because as soon as they hunt them down and find them, they will specifically try to kill them. Okay, that's why. She's saying they must never find us. So this is, once again, Shri Radha talking through a musician, through a performer here, okay? Because she speaks in the form of codes. Now, notice what's happening. They're running towards the city right now, okay? Towards the buildings, towards the population centers, towards the temples, okay? Now check this out, how this begins, all right? Okay, here we go. All seven and we'll watch them fall. Click, click. That happens at 44 seconds in, or I should say, that's when he says that lyric, and immediately after the 44 seconds in, so remember the 4-4 reference is always referring to intimacy, Nikoloka. So right after that 44 seconds in, the 2 clicks. Now remember, this song was released 2 days before, exactly 7 years after, the first encoded song, Madonna, Open Your Heart. Okay? That's what she's confirming here in this song, that this song is absolutely encoded, and she's reminding us, 2 days, ding ding, 2 karatala tings, okay? Right at 44 seconds, okay? Remember this. Now, we're going to go, now he's saying, all seven and we'll watch them fall, okay? They stand in the way of love and we'll smoke them all. Now, watch what's happening. In a sawe fair. Now, do you guys know what a sawe fair is? This is very interesting. Sawe fair is basically, you could say, a large-scale publicity stunt, basically. In essence, a sawe fair, not exactly a publicity stunt, but actually something done in a situation where a mass message is spoken to the public in an appropriate manner, where the public positively responds. This is a sawe fair, okay? And then immediately when he says that, you notice the sword cuts down, whoosh, slice like that. Now, I'll give you some background on my own personal life. Now, this will apply to each one of you individually in different ways, but this very literally applies to my own life, what happened to me. I literally was speaking out against a false teacher preaching in the temples who was hindering the process of Varnashrama Dharma and 24-hour Harinama Sankirtana. I literally had a sword on my side, carrying it on my body, being Kshatriya Varna. People have known I was doing this for a long time. There's a long backstory to it, but the whole point was I was speaking out against what he was doing. Telling him he was needing to support his disciples, etc., speaking out against the corruption in a particular temple, in this particular temple here in Boise. And what happened was I was literally shot in the back with a taser by a policeman, literally. And he actually literally had a bullet pointed at my head, or I should say a gun pointed at my head, about to pull the trigger. So watch what happens next in what's shown here. There we go. There's the gun symbol. Boom. And look what's happening to the electricity. So he had the gun pointed at my head, and what happened was a guy came behind me and shot me in the spine with a taser, and it literally feels like that, your entire body being electrocuted, because that's what's literally happening all over. It's an extremely excruciatingly painful feeling, and this was directly related to me speaking against the 7 false devotional philosophies in a temple setting, and I had my sword on my side, literally on my body. So you're seeing the sword, you're seeing the gunshot wound, you're seeing the electricity. So in my life, this is very literal what happened to me. But in your cases, it may be symbolic in various ways, etc. So there you go. Okay. Now there's a lot more that's happening in the video too as we go on, but I'm basically streamlining it and just covering the main key points as we go. All right. I saw an angel come down unto me. Remember? Where did we see that before? Where did we see the motherly or the female figure kissing a younger boy? And remember what that symbolizes? We saw that in also the Madonna Open Your Heart video. That's referring to Shri Radha herself, awakening the innocent devotee's consciousness to pure devotional principles, ideas, and concepts, glorification of her correctly, etc. Okay? Now we're seeing the same symbolism here. Once again, now watch what happens next. See, they were all kissing her on different sides. Now this is specifically referring to each individual having a unique relationship with her eternally. Okay, so all these little kids that are basically dressed in this black eye cover stuff, right, and then this checkered stuff covering their body, they're representing each individual devotee on the same page. Okay, so individual, unique individuals on the same page devotionally speaking. This is what that's talking about, and they're perceived by external eyes as being individuals who are immature. That's why they're symbolized as children. Once again, like where before did we see this? In the Madonna Open Your Heart video, the other encoded video, which directly correlates with this one. Okay, same symbolism both times. All right, now welcome, Nick. Thanks for joining us. Okay, now what we're going to go to is the next part. In the distance, an army's marching feet. Now you'll notice with each one of these little kids, the character representing Shri Radha in this video is expending herself for each and every single individual in what little innocent child forms also. So this is talking about the innocence and the purity of pure devotional principles being taught, spoken, and understood. Okay? Here we go. This gets good. There we go. We lay down on the sand of the sea. Now you remember what we talked about? Where do we see the sea lyric also? And remember what that's referring to? Once again, the sea lyric was in the song Heaven is a Place on Earth, Shri Radha's second directly encoded song. And the sea is referring to the mass information of the world. So the sea is referring to the information age, the computer systems, the communication between societies, people, etc., the devotional groups. So all this massive information is the sea. Now, we lay down upon the sand of the sea. So what this means is we're outside of the mass information flood about Radha and Krishna, about devotional service, etc., that's spreading all throughout the world right now. We're on the outside of that flood of information, basically a calm, relaxed, level-headed state. Okay, this is what's being referred to, on the sand of the sea. Okay, of the information sea. Before us animosity will stand and decree that we speak not of love, only blasphemy. Now, how many times has that happened in our lives already? It's been happening to me countless times and continues to do so to this day. I have lost track of how many times I've been considered to be a mental speculator, a sahajya, etc. So many other things like this. It's a continual thing for me. So that animosity will stand and decree, and this, I'm sure this is going to happen with all of you as well, watching this and understand and seeing this encoding, same thing, is animosity will stand and decree that we speak not of love, but of blasphemy. Okay, so basically, oh, you're not actually speaking the truth about devotional service. Oh, none of that stuff's actually encoded. Oh, you're just another sahajya group, etc., etc., etc. The same accusations that happen every single time. So that's going to happen with all of you. It's happened with me, and it's going to happen with all of you. I guarantee it. So just be ready for it, because it comes with the territory of actually, and this is what the entire encoding's about. It's a music video. We're adhering and making a point to actually spread Shri Radha's actual message, okay, that she's encoding in all these things. Because one of the reasons she does this also to help us is because many, many devotees specifically do not pay attention to encoding like this. And they specifically will miss this stuff, specifically because they adhere unknowingly or knowingly to one of the 7 false pseudo-devotional ideologies. That's why they don't pay attention to these things, and she knows this. Therefore, she encodes it for certain devotees especially, because she knows that only certain ones of us will actually look into this. And the ones who look into it are the ones it's actually for. Okay? So remember this as well. That's actually what the actual encoding is about in the song. Okay? Always remember. 6 others will curse me. Now, why 6 others? Why is it that only 6 others curses us, or curses him? When he says curse me, so Prince is basically, he's symbolizing the actual correct devotional philosophy. It's symbolized by his personified character here. Okay? So, and then the little kids are symbolizing individual devotees involved. Okay? So, remember this. So 6 others will curse me. Now, there's one of those 7 false devotional ideologies that won't curse us, that won't say we're blaspheming them and all this other stuff, because they'll think we're actually teaching what they're teaching to begin with for a while. And then eventually they realize we're not, and then that's why there's 6 that will curse us instead of 7 that will curse us. Very interesting, actually, that it's 6 instead of 7. There you go. I will watch them fall. One after the other, they'll fall. We will smoke them all with an intellect. Right? With the intellect. Sawe fair. So basically, it's going to be a combination of this. Devotees we're going to swamp them with our intellectual capacity, devotional intellectual capacity, not just mundane intellect. Okay? So what this means is a flood of information about the forms of Radha and Krishna, details regarding them, devotional concepts, etc. We're going to flood the world with so much information about Radha and Krishna and practical daily Harinama Sankirtana that the information combined with the Harinama Sankirtana will be unavoidable, and what we're going to be teaching is going to be undefeatable in debates and open discussions. You won't be able to be defeated, period. It will be impossible, literally. And so this is what he's talking about. With the intellect, that's that intellect side, and then the Sawe fair. Basically a public scenario, public speaking, which is appropriate, which actually attracts the public, for once, finally. Okay? Now this is going to happen because the actual truth is factually uplifting. And when delivered correctly, according to time and circumstance, properly, the actual truth will attract the mass of the populace, and this will happen in the correct key timing, relating to things that are happening socially in the public world. So when things, especially when things are looking bad in terms of collapse, societal collapse, etc., that's especially when people become more attuned to wanting to hear messages about the absolute truth, etc. Usually it takes disasters for them to get to that point, though. No one in the whole universe will ever compare. This will be a unique incident in the course of history. This is what he's talking about. Very unique. We love through all space and time, right? Beyond space and time. Pure devotional service is beyond space and time. One day all 7 will die. And you'll notice he's changing his garb every time he's getting shocked in that tube. That tube, here we go. That tube that he keeps showing is referring to him being boxed in, basically. Not being able to actually express what he wants to say, etc., and so forth. But continuing to basically change up his method, his mode, so which is symbolized by the change of dress, etc., and then he keeps getting shocked every time, jolted, shot at, basically. So, but eventually what happens is, eventually works out. But you have to keep trucking at it. That's the whole point. So you'll feel like you're like in this locked-in tube, like isolated individual for a while. You'll feel that way. But you'll see the fruit play out of your sincere devotional efforts. I guarantee it. Okay, here we go. River of blood, a plague and a river of blood. Every evil soul shall die in spite of. The 7 tears. Do not fear. In the distance. 12 souls from now, you and me will still be here. Now this is interesting. This is a prediction referring to 12 generations. So after our generation now, this actually spreading throughout the world, being a unique incident in the entire history of Krishna consciousness and the golden age of Lord Chaitanya, which will bring in the second phase of this golden age. This is going to continue on for at least a solid 12 generations. Now this is part of what's being referred to here. There's also other symbolism encoded as well. So 12 generations, so that's about 360 years at least after our day and age right now that we're in. So we'll see with this immortality, or I should say not immortality tech, life extension tech that's coming in, etc. We may very well actually manage and pull off continuing to live in these self-same bodies for hundreds of years. Ourselves, actually, not to speak of later generations even. So very interesting to keep this in mind. 12 souls from now, we will still be here. So the correct devotional teaching from our efforts will still be around 12 generations from now. So be assured your efforts will bear full fruit, okay? Oops. We will still be here. Notice that. There we go. There was a lot that happened there. So you notice it shifted. He was grabbing the hand. So the actual correct devotional teachings were hand in hand with Shri Radha and her glories. And at the same time, it flashed really quick to a bluish color, once again pointing towards the ground, the hand on the ground. Okay? So that's referring to a lot of different things. But to streamline it, we'll move forward. And notice what he just said there. This is very significant, so pay very close attention vocally and audibly. Even rewind it if you need to when you watch this video. He says, streets of Gaura. See, specifically you hear him say Gaura. The lyric is supposedly, on the surface, supposed to be gold, but Gaura, as we all know, is referring to gold. Golden limbs, one, right? So, but he actually says Gaura, streets of Gaura. So check this out. That's actually worth rewinding to get that out. So pay attention very carefully. No, we will still be here. Here we go. See if I can pause it right at the right time. New city. Streets of Gaura. Okay, bingo. There we go. Hold on. That's a big aspect of this song. Now you notice the street changed from the color of blue to golden now. Okay? The streets are actually golden colored now. Referring to, remember what we talked about? Shri Radha's glory is now being spread, alright, throughout the world, and specifically the glories of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Gauranga, which allow us to understand the glories of Shri Radha and Shri Krishna. So, the streets will literally be filled with Harinama Sankirtana, which is the names of Radha and Krishna, and the names of Nitai and Gauranga, and also, in the process of this, the devotees will be chanting Nitai Gauranga, between the chanting of the Mahamantra. So the streets will literally be filled with Gaura. And what that also means, and what it could potentially also mean, is that the streets will literally end up getting paved with actual physical gold. This is also a possibility that may play out. Either way, the names of Gaura are going to make the streets golden streets. Okay? So, here we go. The youth will never grow old. There will be no death. With every breath. Let me see. I gotta get it to stop doing this. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Sing a song that's so old, sing it while we watch them fall. Now, you notice he specifically mentioned there will be a new city with streets of Gaura. Youths so educated they will never grow old. Because what happens when you're engaged in devotional service? What happens? The process of karmic birth and death do no longer apply. This is why the pure devotees say, let me serve you birth after birth, because they're already in Goloka Vrindavana, in their consciousness, okay? So, when we're in Goloka Vrindavana, in consciousness, you're not worried about external births and deaths, and this can also be referring to as well, at the same time, the fact that people may very well actually not be dying physically for long periods of time either, that they won't actually be growing old, due to a lot of this tech that's being allowed to exist due to the mercy of Shri Radha relating to Harinama Sankirtana. It's all connected, okay? So even material tech, which extends your life, is directly related to Radha and Krishna, allowing this tech to exist for the propagation of Krishna consciousness for longer periods of time. And so the devotees can have longer lifespans to perfect their devotional service before they leave their bodies. That's why this tech's actually being allowed to exist and to come in right now, okay? It's all because of Radha and Krishna's arrangement. So don't think it's just some atheistic thing that they're trying to pull off. They have their own ideas for it, but the real reason it's being allowed to exist is because of Radha and Krishna's mercy to even the materialists and everyone, allowing us to have longer lifespans, okay? And this is what they're allowing to happen. Now, think about it. When someone's educated enough, and they're youthful, and they understand things, you're going to be able to, even just by that alone, extend your lifespan very easily. And when you're chanting the Maha Mantra, right, which is the very next line in the song, a song so old, so bold, right? A song of many colors also. He says, so this is referring to the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, so bold, devotees going out individually and chanting. You have to be brave, you have to be bold to do this. It takes courage to do that, right? And song of many colors, many varnas. So what does varna mean? Varna means color, Okay, it's all this, every one of these lines he just said right here in this part of the song. Listen to these over again if you need to. It's a very significant part of the song. Okay, there we go. 2. There's the dings again. Now notice that the second 2 dings happened at 140, at that 144, 145 mark again. Okay, it's the first time around they happened at the 44, 45 mark. So once again, she's saying the 2 again. Pay attention to that 2 number. Okay, this song is encoded. 2 plus 2 equals what? 4. Okay, and then there was another Karatala ding, finger Karatala ding in the middle, which is then, once again, you have the 6 number again, okay, which we all know what that means, and that's referring to, okay. Now, all of that moved by very quickly, so the point with this is, here, let me just blow this thing up so it stops closing. There we go. Okay, so all the different varnas of devotees will be engaged in Harinama Sankirtana, the truth of many colors. That's, the many colors is also referring to different ways of describing things, different ways of describing the same devotional concepts, etc. Okay, so old, so bold, and then we will watch them fall. So this is all referring to Harinama Sankirtana, the streets being filled with Gaura. All of this is referring to Harinama Sankirtana, and the cities being retaken back over from the demonic corporate elitists and stuff by Harinama Sankirtana, and Varnashrama being reestablished. All of it's in the same lyric. All of it is in the same lines of these songs. Okay? This one in particular. Let's see here. Oh, this stupid thing. Eventually I'll get it to where I can blow it up and have it on the main screen itself. Once somebody can actually explain it to me in layman human terms instead of computer programmer terms. That's Robin Cloud I have to thank for being able to actually upload videos to YouTube. I could have never figured it out otherwise. He finally made it make sense, actually. There we go. There it is. The sword again, man. That sword cut again. There's so much going on here. There we go. The stroking of the filament, that actually takes place. That's actually a pastime that takes place daily in Goloka, where Shri Radha actually strokes the filament of a flower. That type of flower, in fact. Anthurium, I believe, is the scientific name of it. And that actually happens. When she does that, she's referring to her intimacy with Krishna. She's also speaking the form of codes in that pastime to Krishna himself, actually. And that's why she strokes the anther filament flower. You can obviously see the symbolism and the meaning of that Shri Radha is trying to relay to Krishna and to us. So that's why it was put in this video too, because this video is encoded. Okay? There we go. Once again, there it is. One day all 7 will die. There's the dings again. There it is. And the evil laughter. The doors with the 8 spokes on the outside. So, okay, there it is. And of course, there was a lot that I didn't actually cover in the video itself yet, but you guys can watch that over, and I'm sure you will see an abundance of information there, okay? So, 38 minutes in now. Looks like there's 2 watching at the moment. Wonderful. So, yeah, whoever didn't see it, I highly recommend it. Everyone go watch over the entire thing again so that you don't miss anything. And please also watch the other encoded videos, because this one will make more sense if the encoding in the other previous videos has also been seen and fully understood, okay, what's being shown. Because they're all connected. All 4 of these videos are connected in sequence together, actually, in that list. So songs directly encoded by Shri Radha on Kamadeva Dasa on YouTube. Okay, feel free to, you know, re-upload those, whatever you want to do with them. And the thing is, because this information should be very much be spread. Now, in the first, Hare Krishna Ishvaranandani, all glories to Radha Sham, and all glories to you specifically. Thank you for your encouragement. So Ishvaranandani has been encouraging me very much in all of these things. It looks like you're the one actually watching Ishvari, so thank you for that. I appreciate it very much so. And I look forward to the days ahead, because you've been seeing this also. You've been seeing these numbers pop up all over the place, the 444, the encoding and stuff. So you've been right here along with all of us seeing this and can verify all this stuff going on. You can see it. I'm sure of it. As well as so can Andrew. Mahdi has seen it. Robin Cloud has seen it. And more devotees as the days go on, as the weeks go on, are seeing this now more and more. So we need to pay attention to what this encoding is and actually engage in this encoding in the actual what Shri Radha wants us to be doing, which means these things will play out faster and that much quicker the sooner that all devotees worldwide start individually, or the devotees among our Sangha, start individually engaging in daily Harinama Sankirtana for a minimum of about 20 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, just going out into the open and vocally chanting the Maha Mantra and dancing to the chanting of the Maha Mantra. When this occurs, which was the encoding in the song called Block Party, what needs to actually take place, and the encoding in all the previous songs, and including this one, that is actually what's going to cause all these things to play out. When devotees actually start doing that, and the sooner we do this, the faster these things will actually play out as encoded. Because our free will is still involved. So when something's encoded, it doesn't mean that it's 100% set in stone. This is exactly what will happen, exactly. It means that this is the general gist of what's going to be taking place. But exactly how it plays out is going to be determined by how we use our free will. So the glories of Shri Radha have already been getting spread. We've already been discussing this on and more people are already taking to listening to Ayana Prabhu, hearing from him, being inspired in daily Harinama Sankirtana. So Shri Radha's prediction in Madana Open Your Heart have already taken place. Okay. Now you'll notice something about all these encoded songs too. They specifically inspire the individual who sees the encoding to engage in Harinama Sankirtana. You will see this in your own life actually. You will be inspired spontaneously to engage yourself in Harinama Sankirtana with or without help, which means you'll walk out in the public, in the open, and start chanting and dancing, and you won't wait for help. This is what will happen if you actually fully see the encoding in these songs. You'll be inspired in this way. And this is actually another proof, and way you can verify things are encoded is by what's the result. When you listen to it or see it, what is the result in your devotional life? What happens? See? What are you inspired to do? I myself was inspired to chant and dance daily after I watched the Madana Open Your Heart video and fully saw the encoding finally before my very eyes completely. I was immediately inspired myself to do so. Which is exactly the purpose of these encodings. So these encodings in these videos aren't just for some random, oh, that's kind of some novel, interesting, neat little thing. They're actually specifically encoded to inspire you in Harinama Sankirtana daily. Okay, that's why these encodings are done by Radha and Krishna in the first place, and that's why they choose these specific songs, and why they have done so, I should say, for that purpose. Okay, so I can guarantee you one thing. If someone is watching these music videos or looking at the encoding and they're not feeling inspired in daily Harinama Sankirtana, they're not fully seeing the encoding all the way. They might be seeing parts of it, but they're not seeing the full thing. And that is the reason for the lack of enthusiasm there. Because if you see the full thing, you will be inspired and enthused. So it looks like today everybody had other things they needed to do, which is fine. People have busy lives, etc. But we will see. We'll see as the weeks go on how many more start talking to us about this topic and getting involved in maybe finding new songs that are actually verifiable as publicly encoded to all devotees worldwide. This song was actually sort of a hybrid. So certain songs are encoded, yes, but they're not publicly provable because of the fact that they are encoded for certain individuals and not everyone in general. This one is sort of a hybrid of those two because, yes, this one is especially encoded for everyone involved in the International Harinama Sankirtana movement, which is devotees worldwide doing what we're talking about, individually chanting, etc., completely free of institutional hierarchies altogether. And also, this song is referring to devotees as a whole throughout the world as well, should be doing this also. So the first three were encoded to all devotees worldwide, or I should say the first two were, and then the second two, Block Party and this one, are basically hybrids. They're encoded especially for certain devotees, but also for devotees throughout the world as a whole. Okay. Now we're going to discuss what these 7 pseudo-devotional philosophies are. I'm going to grab my paper here. I have them written down, and exactly the order in which they will fall. completely, or I should say the order in which they will philosophically fall and are defeatable. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the order that they are going to fall historically, and that, okay, Mayavadi tinges are going to be completely defeated first, then this, then this. They're all going to be defeated together, but in terms of being defeatable in that order, 1 to 7, that order is very sound and solid in terms of the order in which they're able to be defeated philosophically in discussions and debates. And depending on how high up the list they go, that much more challenging they are to defeat philosophically in debate, etc., which is why they're in that order, okay? Like the domino effect of falling one after the other, okay? So bear with me a moment. I'm going to grab this paper, and we'll go over the 7 false pseudo-devotional ideologies which are being spread and taught now, and which the majority of the world is buying into, knowingly or unknowingly. Okay, and we'll expose what they are and the branch offs of them, which take different forms. Okay, so 2 seconds. Okay, here we go. Now, the first one is, of course, Mayavadi tinges. So most devotees worldwide can defeat Mayavadi tinges. Any devotee who's read any amount of Prabhupada's books at all, even just a few chapters, can defeat Mayavadi philosophy very easily. Okay, and the tinged versions you can also defeat if you know what to look for. So most devotees can take that out without much of a problem. That's the first pseudo-devotional ideology to be defeated. The second one are Brahmavadi tinges. Okay, now this is generalized Brahmavadi, not syncretic Brahmavadi, which is much more difficult to actually defeat. So generalized Brahmavadi, basically, that's also defeatable. It's a little more challenging to defeat philosophically than Mayavadi tinges, because they actually accept the eternal forms of Radha and Krishna. Brahmavadis do, or at least in general they accept this, but they don't accept them the way that devotees do, etc. So, but they're still defeatable because they can be clarified to these people. So the third one is the Siddha Pranali Diksha concepts, or in other words, and over time we'll be able to figure out broader terms for this stuff, overall ideologies, etc. Basically, Siddha Pranali Diksha concepts are the ideas, that's one aspect of this philosophical fold, where basically you can also kind of call it like a spark or a jolt concept, where basically it's like, okay, somebody's a devotee or a pure devotee, etc., or whatever, or supposedly a pure devotee, and then basically they jolt their disciple with like some realization or something. Okay, initiation, that transfers over some mystical thing to the disciple or whatever, and that just like gives them realization of their Svarupa, or the ability to realize their Svarupa or something. But it's very much so a tunnel process. So it's like, okay, you have to do it this way, and only that way can you realize your Svarupa, and etc. So those types of thinking processes, where it's dependent on an externally visible process taking place, okay, initiation, whatever, those ideas that has to take place in order for you to realize your Svarupa are within the fold of the Siddha Pranali Diksha false concepts, or the jolt to perfection concepts, basically. Okay, and that's the third one. It's fairly easy to defeat, not too difficult, but it takes more wherewithal and more knowledge than Mayavadi and Brahmavadi. Now the fourth is the Prakrita Sahajya tinges stuff, authorization of illicit sex, etc., in the name of devotional service, assuming what your eternal form is, etc. So the Prakrita Sahajya stuff is a very wide fold, and that is what we are going to be getting labeled repeatedly, and have been and will continue to be labeled erroneously. That's why I did a whole video on this. Devotees worldwide who are actually sincere to one degree or another, or spontaneous genuinely to one degree or another, are always labeled Prakrita Sahajyas, or suspected of having tinges of that, or whatever. Ayendra Prabhu himself was labeled that by a bunch of fools. So if you get labeled Prakrita Sahajya, please watch my video on Sahajyas everywhere, oh my god, where I'm holding my hands up like this, where we go point by point what Sahajya actually is, okay? Distinguished from a sincere devotee who still has material contamination, trying to understand their Svarupa, etc. What the difference is, what the distinction between those two is. Prakrita Sahajya is very specific, distinct from that. They're not the same thing, okay? But most people right now still don't know this, and they still don't know what the difference actually is. So you have people getting labeled Sahajyas who aren't, and the people who should be getting labeled Prakrita Sahajyas that aren't being labeled that. So because so that's the whole thing. That's the fourth one. And the reason it's kind of in the middle ground is because philosophically it's easy to defeat, but in terms of the Prakriti Sahajya manifestation in a person's life, that's the more challenging part. You have to really know what to look for and understand all these little subtleties about preaching, behaviors, etc., like that, to be able to distinguish that. Okay, lust, which is recognized as material, from actual Prakriti Sahajya philosophy. Okay, so that's the fourth, and then which one is not going to be cursing us? I have a feeling it might be the Prakriti Sahajyas who are going to be the ones not cursing us, because we're basically going to be labeled the same thing as they are. That's my gut feeling on it. It may end up being one of the others, but it's likely going to be the Prakriti Sahajyas, because they're pretty much just not going to care. They're going to look at what we're saying. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. But they're not exactly going to adhere to it or take to it the way that we do. And that's basically the situation. That's why there's the 6 curse us instead of the 7, right? Okay, so because they're going to think we're on the same page as them for a while when we're actually not. And that's the thing. They'll find out over time. Okay, so, and then 5, of course. Now this insistive Ritvik Sampradaism is one form, is within this fold. Now this isn't only specific to Ritvikism relating to Prabhupada. No, it's not only specific to Ritvik ideologies either, in terms of insisting this on others. What this fold of ideologies consists of, it's inclusive of basically any ideology that has a personality, including someone who's using Nityananda or Lord Chaitanya, which are the Supreme Lord themselves, but basically using them or using a pure devotee as a shield, hide behind body bag, basically like savior figure, where that person is used, okay, for so many different things, while the individual is using that person, engage in all sorts of illicit activities, etc., while using their name as a front to hide behind that, oh, everything's just going to be taken care of because I keep putting Nityananda's name in front of me, or I keep putting Prabhupada's name in front of me. Basically, it's this whole middleman front name idea that is that has a lot of different manifestations. Okay, and we'll go into more in depth that later. But the one you're most familiar with is insistive Ritvik Sampradaism, where basically the teaching and belief that people are pushing, okay, Prabhupada is the only initiating acharya for the next 10,000 years. Now, genuine people who follow the Ritvik process aren't all like this. There's only a certain group that are like this, and these are the ones that we're talking about. People who take the initiation process via the Ritvik method may or may not adhere to this insistive Ritvik Sampradaism also. They may not, and genuinely be following that process, okay? But if they're part of this insistive version, which they treat it as a sampradaya, like you have to do this or else, in other words, where they interfere with other devotees' personal choice on initiation, etc., that is this fold of false ideologies, okay? And it can also be for other people too. It's not necessarily only referring to Prabhupada. There's a group that's pushing this for Ananta Vasudev. Some groups are doing this with Bhaktisiddhanta, all sorts of stuff like this. And some groups in the future may start trying to do this with us. We won't allow this to happen, or any one of us among us. And this is the whole point. So that's the number 5. It's getting closer to the edge of being one of the harder ones to defeat philosophically, because you have to distinguish between the sincere people who are correctly following it and not adhering to a false ideology version of it, and then those who are actually pushing a false ideology version of it. Okay, so you got to really sift through the waters in this one. Where this is where the Paramahamsa Swan practice starts coming in, practicing this sifting through the milk from the water. Okay, now we're going to number 6. Now this is syncretic Brahmavadi, which is false syncretism. Now syncretic Brahmavadi is almost the hardest one to defeat of them all, because syncretic Brahmavadis, they specifically accept the eternal forms of Radha and Krishna as eternal, as all pervasive, and as all the absolute truth, but they do so in a way that does not actually fully acknowledge the infinite independence of the forms of Radha and Krishna, and also does not acknowledge the supremacy of specifically the forms of Radha and Krishna, okay, in relationship to other things. So it on the surface, to most people, if they don't really know what they're looking for, most devotees in the entire world and most humans in the world will be misled by syncretic Brahmavadi every time, almost every single case, if you don't really know what you're looking for. All right, so to defeat syncretic Brahmavadi, this is going to be where the hard the hard hitters come in, where you have to really be in the heavyweight range of knowing your scriptures, intellectual stuff, knowing what's what to defeat these guys. Because you have to really, really know what's what. Because they very easily can mislead millions, entire assemblies of people, and make it seem like what they're teaching to people is actually the personal devotional truth, and convince huge numbers of it. Okay? Huge numbers. And they have the ability to do this because of syncretism being an actual real science, but which they misuse and misunderstand in terms of the original, deepest source of syncretism. Okay? So they understand overall the syncretism science in different ways, but they don't understand the origin of that science and how that works, nor do they understand the actual truth about the forms of Radha and Krishna specifically. They have misunderstood ideas about the forms of Radha and Krishna, which they mislead people with. All right? So that's the 6 very difficult to defeat. Defeatable, but you have to know what you're doing. Okay? And you have to be very well read or very well educated on devotional principles, terms, etc. to defeat these guys if you're in a discussion or debate forum. So fighting against these people is not for the general practicing devotees or devotees, even very sincere devotees, but who don't know all these like specific point by point things. Going up against these guys is not for those individuals, because yes, you will still be in the right, but you won't be able to convince masses of people against their false teachings without knowing your stuff. That's what's going to be the case, okay? So then the last and the hardest to defeat of them all, which is doable, you have to insanely know what you're doing to defeat these guys. It's the actual devotion mixed and tinged with mysticism, okay? So what this is basically, this is what the situation was with the individual in the scripture named Maitreya Muni, okay? He was actually devoted to Krishna, but mixed with this mystical ideology stuff going on. So that's it's one step above, just beyond syncretic Brahmavadi, where they wholeheartedly accept Radha and Krishna as the absolute truth person, but once again, they basically treat everything in terms of reality as more or less like mechanical, in the sense of, okay, you go back to Goloka Vrindavana, the Sahasra Chakra, you work on your chakra thing, and these individuals are also very much so, many of them, really, really pushing the vegan stuff, okay? Veganism as a personal choice is fine, but the ones really like pushing it as a big mass philosophy thing and going in depth in this chakra, that chakra, this life area, move it this way and blah, 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 you know, you got to activate this and this and this. That type of stuff as like the big focus, that's devotion tinged with mysticism, okay? Now, that's the 7th and hardest of them all to defeat, because in there you have, to one degree, you have an actual degree of actual devotion involved, but it's in a way that will basically keep devotees trapped in places other than actual Goloka Vrindavana. Now, remember what we talked about this. At the utmost, and those ideologies rarely will get them there too, but the thing is, it will in most cases keep an individual trapped in the cycle of birth and death also, because they'll be obsessed with the mysticism and obsessed with the information over and above the actual devotion, okay? So what they'll start to correlate information and knowledge about devotion with actually being devotion. And so it's a very extremely subtle point that you have to be extremely attuned to intuitively and shastrically know what you're doing as well. So if you can take out syncretic Brahmavadis philosophically, etc., in debates, you can potentially take out the mystic devotion tinged with mysticism stuff also, but it takes that much more knowledge, effort, understanding, etc. So these are the 7. We've covered them all. So Mayavadi tinges, Brahmavadi tinges, Siddha Pranali Diksha concepts, or jolts to perfection concepts, Prakriti Sahajya, authorization of illicit sex, basically mistaking material lust for transcendental things, or materialistic tendencies for being transcendental, etc. 5, Ritvigism, insistive Ritmik Sampradayism specifically, and or also the body bag method is what I call it. Basically, you're using an acharya, you're using a pure devotee, you're using even maybe Radha and Krishna themselves, or Lord Nityananda, is basically a hide behind shield for your sins that you engage in, etc. And basically you turn them into your savior while you don't actually in your heart or mind want to develop the love with them fully. Basically, it's more or less treating it as a mechanical salvation process where okay, they're the savior, basically I just depend on them and then they'll save me. It's those types of things. Okay, and then 6 is the syncretic Brahmavadi, the false syncretism, all right, which passes off as personal truth, but it's actually personalism mixed with impersonalism. And then mystic devotion, actual devotional service, tinged and mixed with mysticism, which leads people ultimately away from devotional service and usually back to the syncretic Brahmavadi stuff, etc., etc. So there's the 7, and they will all fall, yes. And this is what's predicted in the music, in the song. So next week or the week after, we'll see how soon I feel comfortable to cover it. But there's a song called Forever by Whigfield, which this song we covered today was found from. And this song is also fully encoded. Now, this is very interesting because Radha and Krishna they want all devotees to be able to read numbers, okay? There's a very simple way to read numbers because the 0 to 9 system, which we covered before, is a divine system that Radha and Krishna have put together eternally and that they use eternally to encode information about their pastimes to us while we're in the material world so that we can look at these numbers and see these things happening around us and understand what Radha and Krishna are doing right then and there, what pastimes they're wanting to show us, wanting us to remember, etc. Because every one of the numbers is a goddess, a living, breathing goddess, not a symbol for a monetary value. No, the monetary value indications come from these being living, breathing, actual beings. So what we'll do is in this video, the Whigfield Forever video, Shri Radha is specifically showing devotees how to read numbers in relationship to the pastimes of Goloka, okay, happening every day, so that when you see numbers, you'll know who's being referred to, how that relates to you in your devotional life, etc. And that is the encoding in this music video. It's interesting because this video that I found by Whigfield was the one that led to this one, but it's the one that she wanted presented later afterwards. Because basically now you've seen the encoding in this video, top to bottom, and all these other ones. Now everybody's going to be wanting to know, well, how do we actually read numbers accurately as they apply to the eternal Ashtakaliya Leelas, the Eightfold Daily Pastimes of Goloka? How do we read these numbers correctly? And how do we know what numbers are saying to us on the highest, deepest level of our relationship with Radha and Krishna? It's not complicated, actually. It's fairly simple. But it just takes a little bit of getting informed on it so you know what to look for correctly. Okay? So we're at about the hour mark now. I could end it off here, technically speaking. But I feel like going a little bit longer, so if anyone, or it just looks like maybe Ishvaranandi or one other person is watching right now, I notice these numbers don't exactly line up correctly all the time, so who knows who's actually watching at the moment. But if you want to say anything, my friends, feel free. Mention anything. We could discuss stuff. Bro, you saying Madi Hyrule? Bro, my wife is driving and 3 cars just passed me, all with 4s as the first number. 444. There we go. And you've seen, Madi, how many times the 444 has been appearing this week. So this is just another indication of this. The 444 again is appearing. It's appeared to me. It's appeared to Ishvaranandi, to you. Because here's the thing. Radha and Krishna also know that devotees who are watching these presentations, coming in from the outside, who aren't familiar with the background or the encoding or how this stuff was discovered or come across, most of them, and for good reason in many cases, are going to be assuming that, oh, this is probably mostly just speculation, and okay, it's devotional for Kamadeva Dasa and a few others because he's seeing everything devotionally, so therefore he's kind of just looking at it from that perspective. That's how most devotees are going to be thinking about this coming in. But Radha and Krishna are doing this with you, with Ishvaranandi, with Andrew, because they're wanting you guys to also vouch for the facts of this stuff and confirm this outside of just me, like confirming this to other people as well, so that more devotees can understand this, because Radha and Krishna also want devotees to see that this is actually genuinely happening, that it's not just me saying it, right? And this is why they're doing this stuff you're seeing, why they're arranging these 4s to appear like this, why they're arranging timings of things to happen when they do, like the stuff that popped up on your phone, all those numbers. You see what I'm saying? They're doing that on purpose, and they're doing that purposefully to confirm themselves that these things are actually encoded to multiple devotees aside from just me. So everybody can verify this together as a whole. That it's not just, okay, Kamadeva Das is just sitting here saying this and, pulling it out of his rear ends because he's just a devotee. And, oh, it's just some nice sentimental thing. He's just seeing it that way. But you guys are literally seeing her predictions actually play out this year, which is what the predictions are referring to, stuff that's happening this year and the year after and the year that's going to follow. You guys are seeing this actually play out now in front of your eyes. So, you know, it has nothing to do with me just, okay, this is encoded and I'm making a prediction and it's going to happen. It's literally Radha and Krishna encoding it, and we're actually all together seeing it play out in front of our eyes now. What their encoding was. I'm even seeing it play out in front of my eyes. You see what I'm saying? Because it's a matter of everybody has free will, and there's no way, it's impossible for me to like artificially, mystically force everybody to make things happen a certain way, for me to be like, oh, look, there we go. You know, I told you so, blah, blah, blah. Because it doesn't work that way. It works like what they encode, what they say is going to happen will happen, and we're seeing it happen. This is the whole point. Like the proof is of the pudding is in the eating. So the encoding in Madonna, Open Your Heart is already taking place, has taken place. The Heaven is a Place on Earth is taking place now as we're seeing it unfold before our eyes. And welcome, Padmalochana Das. Thanks for joining us. So, yeah. So, you know, it helps me, my friends, very much so. You may not have any idea how much this actually helps me. When you actually, just talking to other people and helping verify that, hey guys, this stuff's actually encoded by Radha and Krishna directly. It's not just some speculative idea. It's actually there. You know what I mean? So that will help our devotional community build, and this will help devotees get on the same page and see things from the same core perspective, right? When every devotee can see the encoding the same, they can see it correctly, right? And as it applies to them individually. And when every devotee can read numbers correctly, so they understand what 0 means, what 1 means, what 2 means, all the way up to 9. And they can understand how the number pi works, how the golden ratio works, why they work the way they do in relationship to Radha and Krishna's pastimes in Goloka. Once these things become mainstream knowledge, mainstream information, this will empower devotees as a whole to be able to defeat all the 7 false devotional ideologies and sweep them off the face of the planet as belief systems. Okay? So, so Padmalochana Das, I highly recommend, if you have not already, watching every single one of the encoded music video explanations leading up to this point, because by watching all of them together, because they are all connected together, what's happening in this video, this was presented today, it makes sense. Everything else that it says led up to this makes sense, actually, when the other presentations are understood clearly in proper context. Okay. So what else? Yeah, I'm really glad I stayed on, because you mentioned that, Madi. That timing was amazing. So anything you want to mention, my friends? Padmalochana, do you have anything to mention? Or Mati, before I end this off? I have this gut feeling in this particular video that I should stay on a little longer and carry the conversation on some more instead of cutting it off. So I'll wait a few seconds for you guys to mention something. And if not, I'll start to mention some realizations I've had about this recently. So personally in my life, I've seen this number 444, 444, 444 times over and over and over again. Like, it's just been it's been happening constantly. I can even, you know what, I will post a picture later. I got a business card stack that has the numbers 7 and 4 on them also. And then once again, so the number 4 and 7, I mean, it's just it's gotten to the point where I'm like, you know what, okay, it's happening so often I can't even keep up with how often it's happening, you know. So the thing is, it's like, yeah, these things are actually legitimately going on here, you know. And it's like Radha and Krishna themselves, they're really insistent on this stuff being presented like faster than I can even analyze it, look through it, and present it correctly, because I don't treat this like chump change stuff. What I do is I make sure to watch these things over and over and over and over again, and make sure I can verify every little thing that's happening with stuff that's actually going to take place, things that actually correlates with devotional things that happened historically, devotees. They are everywhere, literally, yes. And they're showing us this through all these things. So what I'm saying is, it takes me a long time to go through a video to actually put it up and post it as verifiably, publicly provable to all devotees as an encoded song to all devotees. You know, because there's so many songs that are encoded, but many of them are intentionally made by Radha and Krishna to not ever be provable, ever, in a public forum. And they do that on purpose. And they do that on purpose because those messages are only for specific individuals. So what happens is, if people don't know any better, if they don't know all these specifics of this stuff, a lot of them will just come in and they'll basically be like, they'll start scoffing. They'll be like, oh, look at this music video. Here's this encoded, this, and this. And it's like, okay, sure. Those things might be encoded to you individually as a devotee if you're actually seriously looking for those things, etc. But it doesn't mean that they're encoded for everyone as a whole publicly or provable as such, right? There is a difference between those two. So when messages are specifically made for all devotees publicly, those are the ones that Radha and Krishna make provable. Okay? Otherwise, they don't allow them to be provable. And this is a fascinating thing, actually, about this stuff. This is, once again, to keep individuals who aren't willing to look far enough into this topic from looking into it further. That's actually why they do that. And they encode why they do that into the music that they actually encode. so it's all connected together. You see what I'm saying? All this stuff. And you can see this very much so. I mean, Madi, you've seen it too. You've actually been doing Harinama Sankirtana. You've been going out chanting alone, individually. I've been doing it too. And I've gotten this inspiration from looking at these songs myself. So that doesn't just happen. And this is the whole point. Things like that don't just occur if there's just some random thing that's like, oh, that's kind of nice, or that's kind of inspiring or whatever. There's plenty of songs that inspire me directly that aren't provable as directly encoded songs. There's tons of them, actually, that inspire me in Harinama Sankirtana also. But the point is, it's like there's those rare gems you run across within timing and everything else that just, that are unavoidable, undeniable. It would be criminal if I didn't actually cover these things for devotees and relay this information. It would be criminal if I just kept it to myself and didn't mention it, It really would be, because it would basically be leaving devotees in the dust, basically not giving them information about what Radha and Krishna want them to have. It's like, hey, we're telling everybody, all devotees worldwide, that this is going to be happening, and this is going on now, so pay attention, We're wanting to reveal this to you. And, as you know, anybody watching this who's not familiar, the reason Shri Radha especially uses music to encode and things in the world encoded, because that's one of the main things she does, even in Goloka. She speaks in the form of codes all the time, because Shri Radha is the hidden supreme, not the upfront obvious supreme. The upfront obvious supreme is Shri Krishna. We all know Krishna is supreme, the supreme enjoyer, the supreme Lord. But Shri Radha is eternally the hidden supreme, specifically because only the devotees who have their eternal residence and place in Vrindavana with her and Krishna together in the Vrindavana mood, those are the only ones who are able to see and understand and grasp and appreciate Shri Radha's encoding, both in Goloka and in the temporal world. The devotees who eternally exist in Dvaraka, Mathura, or who have that as their eternal branch-off preference for their place to be in, those individuals do not fully grasp, appreciate, or understand Shri Radha's direct encoding. They won't, they can't, and they refuse to, all three combined, because their mood towards Shri Krishna, devotion to him, worship of him, etc., is different from the mood of the Vrindavana devotees. Very different. Because for the Vrindavana devotees, Radha and Krishna do not need to be the goddess and god for them to be equally devoted to them to the full intensity that they are. For the devotees of Dvaraka, they require Radha and Krishna to be centrally observed, recognized as the supreme goddess and god for them to continue being devoted to them, worshiping them, etc., and feeling comfortable doing so, right? Whereas the devotees of Vrindavana, that is not necessary. For the devotees of Vrindavana, literally, even though Radha and Krishna, thankfully, are the actual supreme absolute persons, also, that is true, yes. But here's the thing. For the Vrindavana devotees, even if Radha and Krishna enacted a pastime where they basically put someone else or some other being as if they were the supreme, we would still recognize Radha and Krishna as supreme beyond all the information and beyond everything else. We would still recognize it. Whereas the devotees of Dvaraka would basically shift over, oh, okay, this is what you're saying is, who you're saying is Supreme Krishna, this is the highest, then we're going to go with that. Okay? That's a difference. So there's a, and I talked to you about this, Madi, a little while ago, and I've talked to many devotees about this in messages and stuff. You pay attention to this. You'll notice this happening very much. In your conversations with devotees, you'll be able to tell what their eternal preference is, or I should say, what their current eternal preference is in terms of right now, what they're experiencing, whether they're actually inclined towards Dvaraka or Mathura or Vrindavana more. And you'll be able to tell by how they talk about Krishna, by how they talk about Shri Radha and Krishna, by how they describe their pastimes, by what they find attractive and what they emphasize. The way they go about describing their devotional enthusiasm, etc., will you to pinpoint 100% what their eternal preference is, whether it's actually Vrindavana or if it's more so Dvaraka or Mathura. Because those places are made for certain psychologies of devotees. That's why they're there. Because, like we talked about before, full-scale Goloka is encompassing of all those places and encompassing of also the material world as well. All of them together. Whereas Dvaraka and Mathura are specifically designed eternally for a specific set of devotional desires, ideologies, processing of Krishna's position, etc. That's why those exist eternally. So Krishna can reciprocate with devotees who have those desires. So, yes, this is very, very fascinating stuff to cover, to talk about. I'm mind-boggled by the amount of confirmation after confirmation after confirmation. Because literally, I kid you not, I was starting to actually kind of lose hope. I was like, you know what? I know this stuff's encoded. I know it's real. I know it's actually happening. But I was basically getting to a point where I was just like, but it just doesn't feel like enough people are going to recognize it as such. To the point where it's like every time I present this stuff, it just seems like I don't know. It seemed like to me like I was having a gut feeling like it was being more and more and more misunderstood the more I presented or whatever, something like that. Where I was like, yeah, I'm going to continue on. But then, sure enough, what happened was they reciprocated and they were confirming, no, like keep going with this, keep doing it, go, on and on. Focus on presenting this, focus on, what's here. And I was like, okay, great, then I'm going to keep focusing on it, and like I have been, So. This is eventually going to come to a head. So I'm looking at this now, and like devotees, people in the future are going to eventually look back at all this stuff and be like, yeah, all this stuff was discussed way in the early days there, So this is when the people are actually surrounded by these things actually playing out, And it might actually take up to that point for individuals to go all the way back and look at these original presentations on this. And the point is, Radha and Krishna themselves have encoded this even back to the 80s, 90s, and today. But it took 30 years for the encoding to be publicly broadcast, and that was their arrangement. In every case, it literally took exactly 30 years for the predictions in those songs to come to full fruition exactly 30 years later. So that was part of the plan also, that 333 we see in those songs too, in Heaven is a Place on Earth, and the other ones too. You see that 3 association. It's especially referring to that 30-year time frame. That's one of the associations, 10 times 3, So, and you're saying, Mata, yeah, they don't recognize it because they're in a different mental realm, probably. That's true, because but what we're going to see is more and more people will start to recognize this stuff. You know what I mean? They will start to. It's going to be happening. But the point is, it may take, with a lot of people, actually having the stuff happening around them and being full immersed in it to actually want to look back at what the actual original encoding was, which we were made known about way back in the day. 80s, 90s, etc. So, yeah, there you go. Like Lord Chaitanya Krishna getting chased out of the classroom, right? Because he was getting frustrated with his students not understanding and seeing how Radha and Krishna are in everything, right? And because they weren't seeing this, Lord Chaitanya himself was getting frustrated with them. They were like separating grammar, and they were separating all these subjects from actual devotional understanding. And so he got furious at them, and what they did, they got like super furious at him back and plotted, to harm him and stuff, all because he was trying to show them how Radha and Krishna are in everyone and everything, everywhere, like in all subjects. And he was pointing to them how this is the case. You see what I mean? And then chanting the Maha Mantra, actually putting to practical implementation what he was teaching them, what the scriptures are actually teaching, what the lettering contains, the encoding, etc. So it's like, yeah, Lord Chaitanya is with us on this one. He's with all of us on this. So any devotees worldwide who are noticing things that are important, that need to be noticed, not only music videos, other stuff, stuff that, because they encode everything everywhere. Like, I'm not even kidding. And this is, so if we attune our consciousness to what Radha and Krishna are saying to us every day and what they're doing, you will literally be seeing them everywhere in terms of them interacting with you. You'll be always thinking about how things are connected to your relationship with Krishna real time, like Goloka real time, right? And devotees who are familiar with this material, they'll understand by now what the difference between sahaja is, between that and actually doing this process, this exercise. But what I have noticed is in this current age we're in, there's a lot of convenience to jump to assumptions without looking further into material. And this has very much to do with the internet itself, the constant bombardment of information, the sea, right? The sea of information we always keep talking about. And the sea of information is talking about just that, the sea of information. So there's so much of it there that's literally like if you were to jump into it, you will get drowned with the amount of just information that's going back and forth all over the place. So therefore, it's important to rest on the shore of that sea, to take rest, to look at the whole sea of information and see the entirety of it from a vantage point where it is calm, relaxed, level-headed, okay, with the full understanding. And this will empower the individual to see Radha and Krishna in everyone, everything, everywhere, every day. Because here's the point. Even if someone isn't actually seeing Radha and Krishna, they're trying to, and that's the whole point of devotional service. Like either you're trying to see Radha and Krishna, or you're specifically focusing on things being only material, only external only, and then you're only seeing Radha and Krishna in very limited places, only the scriptures, only at the temple and the deity, only in Harinama Sankirtana, etc. So if someone's only seeing Radha and Krishna in those places, in the deity, in the temple, in groups of devotees, in chanting itself, in scriptural study, etc. If so people are only seeing Radha and Krishna there only, then they're missing, literally a huge chunk of their day is going to be filled with not seeing Radha and Krishna, like 80% of the day. You see what I'm saying? Whereas if someone is focusing on seeing Radha and Krishna and everyone and everything, the majority of the day is going to be filled up with Krishna consciousness, right? So Krishna consciousness, it's not like, okay, you read scripture, you chant your rounds, you make offerings, and that only is what Krishna consciousness is. It's like just that, and if you do anything else, it's automatically Maya or temporal. No. Krishna consciousness, because we're all in different situations by Krishna's arrangement, mind you, in so many different ways, that he is exactly right. Krishna makes it so easy. The sky is freaking blue in the light and black when light isn't on. Bingo! And like we've been saying continually, this is why Krishna's forms are described as blackish and also bluish, depending on whether he's shining the Brahmajyoti from his form or not. And in fact, that alone should be enough proof to completely destroy any syncretic Brahmavadi ideology, where Krishna can function and exist completely independently of the Brahmajyoti altogether. He can still run Goloka. He can still operate everyone and everything in Goloka, completely beyond all pervasiveness, and without the Brahmajyoti even being there. He doesn't even need the Brahmajyoti. So that alone should be the proof of that. Like Krishna is showing us this on a daily basis. You see what I mean? And like, it's so many things. And the fact that the light of the sun is what? It's that yellowish, shiny. When you get really, really bright, going more towards the whiter side of yellow, that's indicative of Shri Radha. Her light that emanates from her original forms. Remind us of that. Basically, where Shri Radha herself is the one who lights up Krishna, who lights up his life, lights up his experience, etc. And so they're showing us literally every day of our lives how they run the daily cycles, how they operate everything. You know what I mean? And that's these things are very simple for the simple. This is what Ayendra Prabhu always keeps saying. He says, seeing Krishna everywhere like this is simple for the simple, complicated, infinitely complicated for the complex. You see what I mean? Or infinitely complicated for those who want to complicate things unnecessarily. You see what I'm saying? So simple is where all the information is, actually. It's not, the complication is where you just stray further from the accurate information. There's no need for things to be complicated. We just, because the truth is simple. It's detailed, but simple. So it's like, what's happening is everybody nowadays, they're associating like detail erroneously with complexity. Transcendentally speaking, detail is associated with simplicity. Okay? It's opposite the material world. Once again, the perverted reflection. It's like the more transcendental understanding one has intuitively, the more simple things are to grasp. And you know what's really interesting about this? The lyric. There's another song. It was "I Saw the Sign" by Ace of Base, where they specifically say, and yes, this one is encoded by them, but I'm still trying to determine whether it's provable or not, or whether it's a message to all devotees or not. But it is encoded, and sure enough, they're saying in that song, Radha and Krishna are encoding in that song. They're specifically saying, life is demanding without understanding. That's the lyric, and that's true. without understanding, life is demanding. But when you have understanding, what happens? You do things more precisely, more streamlined, more efficiently, and then life becomes less demanding due to knowledge and understanding of how things work, right? But when you don't have that understanding, then things are infinitely complex. Like if you don't know how to cook, it's complicated. If you don't know how to craft weapons or materials, it's complicated. But once you know how to do it and know the correct procedures, it's simple, it's efficient, it's a piece of cake. You see what I'm saying? So you can just pump out stuff right and left. You can see things right and left. And mathematics too. So this, so we're going to cover the forever video, possibly next Friday, maybe the one afterwards. We'll see. We'll see how long it takes me to basically be able to see the full encoding in it so far. I've seen a lot of it, but there's still more I need to pick up on. But we're going to cover that, and we're going to deal with the number circle. So I've always been terrible at mathematics, but once I learned vortex-based mathematics off of a number circle, now I can understand mathematics like that. It's a piece of cake. It's amazing, absolutely. Because real mathematics, this is actually how it was taught Vedically also, on this circle, not a number line, it's a number circle, right? 0 in the center, and then 1 to 9 around it, right? And then 3, 6, and 9 are in this triangle shape, independent of that, the other numbers. And understanding how numbers work like this, they actually create flower patterns. So the flowers of Goloka Vrindavana, the 5 flower arrows, translate to how mathematics works and how the decimal system works. These are from Krishna's actual flower arrows being fired at us individually that manifest through matter as actual mathematics, which works according to flower shapes. And this is how the numbers are connected on a number circle, which create floral patterns. Okay, very easy to understand for artistic types, for right brain types, for black collar types. This type of mathematics is easy to grasp, and that is exactly what Radha and Krishna want devotees to understand and learn about now. So what they've done is they put it in a video that a lot of people, I'm sure, will likely dislike because it like has that pop cheesy annoyingness, but it's like she did it in a way on purpose like that, to where it's like, it's almost like I've always loved the song. It's never bothered me at all. And that actually has to do with my eternal rasa too, why I like certain music and songs. Like, because to me, it's never been annoying at all. It's been very pleasant, actually, the song. But I know Ishvara Nandini mentioned she didn't like it. But this has to do with eternal rasas too, because she's revealing it in like a nursery rhyme type fashion. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, there's love in the air. She's like a picnic, right? Like a 1950s picnic. She's doing it in a way like if you've ever watched Sesame Street or something, you know, as a kid. That's literally how Radha is like encoding this number in this song. She's like revealing it in like a way that kids can grasp. You know what I mean? And it's funny. It makes me laugh because it will like, it specifically will annoy people. And I'm not saying this is the case with Ishvari, but like it will specifically annoy people who really want like things to, people who want things to be complicated will get annoyed by this, or people who are specifically have an adult vibe or persona or feel, even in their svarupa, they may actually be less inclined towards hearing the song also, because it's relayed in like a kid fashion. So that's actually what's causing the annoyance. Just like adults, they might get annoyed hearing some, you know, Sesame Street thing on TV. They'll appreciate it for their kids, but they might get annoyed hearing it themselves, you know? So Radha and Krishna know this too. They understand different rasas, obviously, because there's the sources of them. And so they understand how to reveal different things to certain individuals. And, you know what I mean? So they know some of us will be receptive to it and like it, and others will get really irritated by it. And the ones who get irritated by it are the ones who won't pick up on as much of the information in it because they can't stand hearing the thing, you know? So it's funny how they do all this, you know? It makes me laugh. It cracks me up. Because, yeah, I love it. You'll find that that's with me. I always love all this like super simplified kid type stuff, because I'm literally an eternal kid. I'm literally, that's one of my favorite relationships with them. You know, it's being just a young kid, literally being dependent on them as their kid, literally. So for me, it's really like easy to jive with all that type of like, you know, childish, quote unquote, immature stuff. To me, I love it, you know, because it's calm and it's simple to me, you know. It's like free from all that adultish complexity that's like just not necessary, you know, stuff that bogs everybody down, like the detailed political things and this and that. I mean, I'm all for detail, but detail that uplifts, you know, not detail for its own sake. Like, okay, how does the detail of stuff uplift me in Harinama Sankirtana? How does it uplift me in seeing Radha's smiling face, you know, when she's talking, pointing to her body parts, you know, mommy's arms, mommy's feet, her nose and her shining toes. Those types of things like that, like, register with me, when she does that. But like when it's like, okay, let's go through all this super insane detail for the sake of the detail itself, so that we can basically, come up with reasons why Radha and Krishna have these forms, or other reasons why. It's like, that's when people do that, you can know immediately they've not understood that Radha and Krishna's forms are the source of everything else. What they try to do is they try to find reasons why Radha and Krishna have these forms of personalities. Radha and Krishna have their reasons why they display themselves like that, but it's their reason. It's not like Radha and Krishna are required to have those forms of personalities because of some other reason. Like, okay, because of the absolute truth, they're required to have yellow color skin or the blackish blue colored skin because of the absolute truth. That's why they have to be like this. No, it's the other way around. It's like they can choose to change their color and have that be the actual eternal fact immediately. Like, literally, Radha and Krishna could choose at any point to change their eternal color to white. Or, Radha could make herself black colored and Krishna could make himself yellowish colors, or any other color. And they could change that, and immediately when they decided to change it, that would be the reality, that would be the absolute truth, that would immediately be the situation. And it's because they're choosing to do it that way, right? They're not dependent on anything at all in terms of this stuff. Yeah, there you go, the youthful, simple spirit, And so yeah, that's why we're very much on the same page, Madi, because we relate in a lot of these things, So you'll see this. You'll see that you relate very much so to devotees you literally have an eternal relationship with in the process of devotional service. And the devotees you tend to clash with, but obviously we respect and love all devotees, but the ones you clash with externally, and no matter what you do, even though you might love them, you just can never seem to get along with them or interact or have anything flow freely at all. That is actually a very strong indicator that eternally you have a rasa with them, where you're both clashing in opinions and ideas and doing different services that basically are, in the pastime sense, are clashing with each other. So they may be engaging in activities which are basically either directly or indirectly hindering Radha and Krishna from meeting each other, and that's actually their service to Radha and Krishna, where you and I are basically engaged in the services of making Radha and Krishna get brought together in spite of those individuals. You know what I'm saying? So, and that translates to even our conditional interactions with devotees here. So it's all connected. It's like we're all an eternal family. It's true. It's just a matter of which relations, which interactions. Because I kid you not, my friend, I have run into people, or my friends, I should say, that are watching. I've run into devotees where I'm looking at them and I know for a fact, I'm like, yes, I eternally do not agree with you or ever get along with you, even in Goloka. And I can just feel it. It's like, I love you, I respect you, but we will never get along for the rest of eternity. And I've had this experience where it's so obvious to me. Like, I'm like, dude, I love you, man, but I will never agree with you, ever. Like, in terms of your vibes or your energy or whatever, And I've experienced this with certain individuals. But, and I know it's legitimate because, like, I feel an affection for them that's still there, but it's not like, but it's an affection where it's like, yes, our relationship consists of us not interacting very much in Goloka, because we will clash when we interact. You know what I mean? So, you say, by the way, I think that's why we hold our arms up to the sky when dancing in Sanskrit. We're reaching up to the sky to embrace them. Yes, exactly. That's exactly the case. That's another simple thing that many may forget. It's like you're literally reaching up to embrace Krishna directly himself, which is showing himself to us in the form of the sky in the material world, as being the source of the sky, right? Krishna, the source of the sky, just like he's the source of the spiritual sky too. So it's referring to that, and it's also referring to complete surrender, where basically you're so embracing Krishna literally and surrendering to the point where your basically hands are up. You basically have just given up. You're completely dependent. You're not trying to grasp for anything else or trying to reach for anything else. And you're just exposing your whole form and body to whatever happens. That's that's the essence of that Rasa Leela dance, and everyone facilitating that Rasa Leela dance. So thanks, Madi. I'm glad you're I'm very happy that we're having this nice conversation now. So and feel free to continue on, my friend. I like this one. I like these ones where we continue on longer than just the presentation itself, because that presentation went by, that didn't even feel like 20 minutes to me. That was insanely fast that went by. And I wasn't even able to cover, like, all the stuff I wanted to cover in the video. There's so much more to it, and I'm sure you'll all see it if you go back and watch it over. You'll see it. Now, love, love, love. There we go. Hare Krishna. Now, here's the thing. Like, because naturally, and this is another one of the reasons why Radha and Krishna code in these videos, because obviously, as devotees, especially if we're practicing brahmacharya, etc., especially that, whatever ashram we're trying to practice, we're not supposed to purposefully or intentionally look at like mundane dancing or females partially not clothed or whatever, because that will, in most cases, that will lead to more material conditioning, more illicit perceptions and stuff. But the point is, they encode in these to encode to the public also. So it's not only for devotees, it's also to subconsciously encode to the public as a whole these things who may not be directly involved in devotional service, to give them sukriti, and to also give these musicians sukriti for their next lives, their future lives, okay? For engaging in devotional service without knowing it. So Radha and Krishna bless individuals throughout the world, everyone, with devotional benefit without them knowing it or realizing it. And they do this very much so, especially when they're pleased with devotees engaging in Harinama Sankirtana. They especially want to shower more love and affection to individuals who have no idea what's going on, what we're talking about, what's happening. So devotees who are correctly seeing the encoding will be further inspired in brahmacharya also. So you can see this practically play out in your own life, Mahdi and all my other friends. If you're seeing the encoding correctly, you won't be looking at it from a perspective of, oh, I'm seeing a scantily clad female dancing. You'll be looking at it from Radha and Krishna telling you something. That's how you're going to be seeing it. So you're going to be looking at it, and you're going to actually find that you find inspiration to practice brahmacharya more. Like, okay, here you're looking at a scantily clad female, but you're seeing the correct encoding. You're not getting sexually agitated, actually, when you're seeing the encoding. You'll see, check this out. I mean, I guarantee you'll experience this. So, because a lot of people bring that up at that argument. They'll be like, okay, the standard reference in the scripture is we're not supposed to purposefully look at scantily clad women, etc. That's true. We're not supposed to look at women, especially if we're practicing brahmacharya. But here's the thing. Even if those things pop up in front of you, and especially if they're encoded, you will see correctly, and your lust will diminish, and your pure love inclinations will increase when you see things correctly. And this is another proof that you can see in your own life, actually. And you'll notice it directly also. But once again, that's another basic, it's like this. It's like gates, I guess you could say. It's one of the, just like there are tridents guarding the spiritual world, right? The Lord Shiva is engaged in a service of. Those tridents are basically stopping people from trying to use the intellect and all these other processes to get to Goloka, right? To access Radha and Krishna, etc. Those are Lord Shiva's tridents stopping them from actually accessing Goloka. So, with these encoded music videos, Radha and Krishna also put stops on people who do not have the correct consciousness so that they're not actually led towards it, so they go a different direction. You see what I'm saying? And they do that because if someone is filled with lust, if they're not seeing encoding, if they're not seeing Radha and Krishna's messages, then those individuals will be more inclined towards lust because they're not going to look at things from the right perspective of vision. So when they see a scantily clad female in a music video, they'll be more sexually agitated on a subconscious level rather than being more inspired in Harinama Sankirtana. They'll just be like, oh, okay, I'm more agitated, I'm not more inspired, simply because they're not seeing what the encoding actually is. It isn't registering in those cases. And that's actually a stop that Radha and Krishna themselves put on, and why they put them in the music videos. So those people who think like that will be led away from watching them. That's why they do that. So there's whole plethoras of reasons why they do this with music and in so many other different ways. So that only the individuals insistent on seeing Radha and Krishna in everyone, everything, everywhere will be seeing these things. Only these individuals who are insistent on it. Okay? The others who are not insistent in this way will not be seeing it. They won't. Because they'll basically just still be seeing Radha and Krishna only in certain places. Okay? And that's what's going on. So when it says that this is very important to remember. When it says in the scripture that the Kanishta Adhikari only sees Radha and Krishna in the deity, or in the temple worship, etc., that's actually also referring to only seeing Radha and Krishna in the deity and in books and in the chanting process. Basically, because the deity form is Radha and Krishna's direct form, obviously, right? So the deity form, there's the physical external deity, then there's the internal mental deity also, okay? Then there's the deity in the form of the book Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So if a devotee is only seeing Krishna in those three deities, which he's also there in a double concentrated form, When I say double concentrated, I mean Krishna is there, plus he's also there as well in all these other ways, on top of being in the scriptures and in the deity, etc. So the Kanishta Adhikaris are only going to see Krishna in the temple, in books, and in the chanting process, and in the arati process, etc. They won't see Krishna in literally everything that's happening during the day. So they won't be seeing Krishna when they're working at Best Buy. Mati, they won't be seeing Krishna when, and I'm saying you are seeing correctly, Mati, but I'm saying let's say somebody else who's a devotee who does work at Best Buy also, right, or works at some other place, if they're not, they won't be seeing Krishna during the day when they're working at Best Buy if they're not specifically insisting on seeing Krishna everywhere. They won't. They'll basically be seeing, okay, this is the external world, and then Krishna, he's there somewhere, but I'm not seeing him, right? Or they'll be seeing it like, is always something late for later on, right, in the day or something. Whereas the ones who do see, even if they're working at Best Buy, or even if they're working at Radio Shack, or Taco Bell or whatever, they'll be seeing literally Krishna everywhere in everything that they're doing, right? And yes, I'm not even kidding. You will literally be seeing Krishna's presence in even the horrific acts you see around you, the meat eating of others, illicit sex, the stool in the toilet, the dirt on the ground. And this is what I'm saying, because Krishna is transcendent to all these things. He's beyond and within all these things. So, but the point is, you're cultivating the correct vision of insisting on seeing him everywhere. And that is the point. But if someone isn't cultivating that vision, Mati, they specifically won't see Krishna at all, except for certain places. The deity form, during chanting and meditation, the mental deity, and so basically when they see like a pile of dirt on the ground, they're not going to be thinking about Krishna or his pastimes or seeing him in the subatomic molecules. They won't be seeing the four, which is the structure that creates earth, the earth element in the first place. They won't be seeing the number 4, the structure, the intimacy, the contact, the face-to-face tactileness between them and Krishna. They'll just be looking at a pile of dirt, and they'll be looking at it, oh, dirt is also Krishna's energy, it's a pile of dirt. But they're not going to actually see Goloka in that dirt. They're just going to see the dirt, and they're going to see Goloka as a separate thing. See what I'm saying? This is a very key point, actually. So also, here's another thing. If you're having an argument with someone, right, and the argument may be something that's seemingly completely mundane, like you're arguing about something that happened later in the day, or like, oh, somebody didn't take out the trash or whatever. If you're cultivating this vision of seeing Krishna everywhere, you will also be seeing Krishna in the midst of that argument happening, but you'll be experiencing an intimate interaction with Krishna beyond the externalized argument. Real time. Okay? You'll be seeing Goloka still even in those situations. This is the whole point. It's like, and then by doing this, you'll find, check this out, the Krishna will arrange, when you purposefully insist on this, that things become easier and easier and easier. But you have to push, 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 and be insistent. And be hell-bent, or I should say, be Goloka-bent, heaven-bent on this, on this happening. That no, my life will be filled with daily, continual Krishna consciousness, period, and no one and nothing is going to stop me or that from happening. So my experience has been this. I go places, like, and in the midst of what I'm doing, like I'm teaching people survival skills or whatever, I'm specifically in the midst of that talking about specifically how this skill relates to our relationship with Krishna in Goloka. Okay, I'm showing you how to make rope right now. I'm showing you how to make fire by sparks. I'm showing you how this survival skill correlates to all these epic things happening in the world, you surviving, right? This apocalypse and stuff, you being in this epic heroic character, which then you'll be back in Goloka with Krishna and you'll be able to look at all these histories. Oh, cool. Now you're a mythos type character that did all these factually awesome things. You survived in the wilderness. You made all your own rope, your own weapons. There you go. And then see, that's the thing. The best colors are blue and yellow. Is the whole point. Now, we were having this discussion, and I found Krishna 4 times per month after starting working here. There you go. So I mean, you see it. You see it. Gadadhar Pandit Das. Ekanta Bhajan, unbroken single point of trance. There you go. Right? And it's a very practical thing. It's not just some... And this is what defeats the Siddha Pranali Diksha like jolt to perfection ideas. Because a lot of devotees, they're getting these weird ideas, man. Where like, okay, somebody's pure, they're a spiritual devotee, and they'll just zap you with like pure devotion, inspiration. And because they're pure, that's how you'll become pure, just because they're pure. This is what I'm talking about. That is the third false devotional ideology where there's like, if it might be subconscious also. Devotees might be subconsciously thinking like this, where it's like, okay, but it's really about you connecting with Krishna, Radha, based on the information that they transfer to you. It's a very practical thing. It's not like some mechanical jolt of, okay, I'm a pure devotee, so I'm going to jolt you with pure devotion. It's like, no, you actually have to free will wise desire to be a pure devotee, desire to see Radha and Krishna everywhere, and actually do that yourself. Irregardless of how pure the person is who you're interacting with, your free will is still 100% intact. So one person, they could be equally inspired by the same pure devotee, but one basically misuses their free will and bases it like, oh, because you're pure, therefore I'll just depend on you and it won't purify myself. And somehow you'll just mechanically jolt me into purity someday if I chant 1 trillion rounds a day or whatever. This is a ridiculous idea. It's the jolt to purity concept. It's funny, actually, people think like that. It's like, no, it's very practical. You just, and Prabhupada spoke against that all the time. He's like, no, the spiritual master and disciple relationship is very practical. It's a very simple thing. He gives you the information about your eternal relationship with Radha and Krishna. You practically put that into action in your life so that you realize your relationship with them and the spiritual teacher on the eternal deep level beyond what's obvious in front of the face of both of you. You see what I'm saying? But it takes the individual actually doing it for that to happen. You know, Bhakti blockchain. There you go. Right. And see, the point is like, it's, yeah, that's what it is. You know, that's how it works, my friends. It's so you actually have to. And I notice sometimes it transferred to me subconsciously too. And I'm just like, no, but like, I never naturally thought that way. I was like, but there's so much of that ideology spreading now amongst the false seven, where it's like, okay, when somebody's pure, associating with them means that by associating with them in the sense of like physically being near them, around them, or whatever, that there's like going to be some mechanical automatic transferring of purity over to you. It's like, no, that's not how it works. It's like, you could be the most, you could even be a sincere devotee, but if you're not actually registering what they're teaching or trying to develop that internally, then none of their purity is going to transfer over to you at all, because you're not actually like focusing on developing that yourself. That's the whole point. Like, he could hand you purity on a silver platter, but if you don't actually know how to handle, and cultivate that purity yourself, it's not going to do any good, because, you know, nothing's going to transfer that way. So, I mean, just, yeah, these mechanical transference ideas of purity to somebody else. What's it called? I had a meme on this. Basically, it's like, this is what it looks like when you get jolted back to Godhead or whatever. And then basically, it's like there's this skeleton in this guy, or, you know, after chanting 1 trillion rounds of Japamala, where basically the guy's body's roasted away. And he's just standing there completely jolted, a skeleton, you know what I mean? And then it's like, because that's that idea. It's a really ridiculous idea where, okay, I'll chant like, you know, I'll chant 64 rounds a day and I'll just keep doing that every day, and then by doing that, somehow Krishna will just automatically someday make me a pure devotee. It's like, no, if you're not specifically cultivating, developing love for Krishna while you're chanting, and actually focusing on being attracted to Krishna while you're chanting, there really is no difference between just mechanically chanting and not chanting then. And so here's the thing. If a devotee is focusing on Krishna, trying to develop his relationship with him, and not exactly chanting in those exact moments, that's literally as good, and that's actually going to be better, actually, than a devotee chanting mechanical Japamala, specifically not at all thinking about Krishna whatsoever while he's chanting, and just thinking Krishna will mechanically, automatically purify him just by audibly vocalizing his names. It's a very absurd idea. You know, it's like, actually chanting means you're actually chanting Krishna's names, which means with enthusiasm, wanting to awaken your relationship with Krishna and stuff. This is why I've never, my whole devotional life, never have I mechanically chanted or been inclined to do so. Never. I've always chanted with the consciousness, okay, when and if I chant Japamala specifically, daily Harinama Sankirtan I do regardless, but when I go to chant Japamala, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm attentive and actually focused on being attentive when I'm chanting before I chant. Otherwise, I might as well just do something else and sing the Maha Mantra or remember Krishna without specifically doing Japamala at those moments. You see what I'm saying? Because it's like, if you can remember Krishna without exactly doing Japamala at those moments, then you're remembering Krishna. That's fine. But the point is, the idea is to get the chanting to where the chanting is actually a pure devotional act, an activity. Okay? That's the whole idea with chanting. So, yeah, it's And I mean, you'll all see this too, and you all have been seeing this in your lives. The point is this: these encoded messages are for all devotees to understand, because every devotee worldwide throughout the universe must be free. Okay? And what I mean by this is each individual eternally in their relationship with Radha Krishna and the pure devotees must be free in that relationship, free from hierarchy, free from domination, free from tyranny, free from externalized institutions breathing down their necks. Institutions can exist and be there, sure, but it's about the individual and their relationship with Radha and Krishna. So no more of this middleman stuff, my friends. Please, no more middleman stuff. The spiritual teachers are there to enliven the direct connection the individual has with Radha and Krishna, and because they do that, that is why they're considered the source of one's pure devotion, because they enliven others in that direct connection. Okay? It's not that they are the middlemen between you and your relationship with Radha Krishna and them in the real state. No, they're not middlemen. They are the ones who uplift and help the individual get back to that direct relationship, and that's the whole point. Okay? It's not that, and because in Goloka we each eternally are infinitely humble, we purposefully keep ourselves indirect and in a humble state because we desire to do that. It's not that the spiritual teachers, spiritual masters are factually an eternal in between you and your relationship with Radha and Krishna. That's not how it is. They're your immediate, quick connection to them. Fast, efficient, quick, immediate. That's the point. That's what a spiritual master does. That's who they are, and that's their purpose. Okay? So over time, we'll be able to figure out better terms for these 7 false ideologies that are more broader reaching in terms of the actual term itself. Right now, I've heard of them according to terms of ideologies that are within these 7. Okay? And this 7 is always referring to information and water together. This is very interesting. So the current, so electricity, water, and information all together are being referred to whenever we see this number 7, this flow, this free-flowing dynamic. Okay? So you'll notice this flow, you'll see it as the Cancer symbol, basically. It's the number 7 in Devanagari, Sanskrit Devanagari. And that's no coincidence. And that's also this symbol. It's correlating with like a little tadpole or sperm or things. Once again, that same correlation there is going on with the water. All right, anything else, my friends? We're almost at the 2-hour mark. I'll carry this on to 2 hours. I decided that. We'll chop it off right around the 2-hour mark and call it good. Or I should say not chop it off. We'll trail it off at that point. Any last minute thoughts? Last minute ideas? Anything you want mentioned or discussed or covered in any of these videos in the weeks ahead? I'm all ears, and I'm very much open to covering a lot of different topics because there's so much to devotional service. There's so many different little things. You literally, you can go on all day constantly about the information that is contained here in these scriptures. And even not even just the scriptures, but just intuitive information even that's inherently understood in correlation with the scriptures. So yeah, I know that everyone who sees this is going to feel inspired by the message, by the information. And I pray that you are all inspired daily in your devotion to Radha and Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda, and that you all find ever-increasing enlivenment, I should say, in ever further realizations in that relationship. As far as I'm concerned, well, as far as each of us are concerned eternally, all of us are eternally individuals. No problem, Adi. Thank you for contributing so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening, too, and being a part of this. Because I really wish all my presentations could be continually like enthusiastic and enlivening the whole time, top to bottom. But a lot of times I honestly feel like it shifts into me just rambling on and not coming across as enthusiastic. More so it has to do with me just focusing on trying to figure out what exactly to say in those time frames, because it's basically like this. Devotional services like this, you have like this infinite series of options of what to discuss at any given time slot. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, what exactly am I going to discuss in this time slot and this time slot and this time slot, or and then that's what Hindra Prabhu was always saying too. He's like, you know what? damn clock. He always called the clock. He was like, the goddamn clock. That's what he always said. He's just like, because every one of his lessons that he ever gave, every one of his talks, he always felt inclined to go on and on and on afterwards. And I love the fact that he did that in his talks and stuff. I could just sit there listening to him for days on end, and be happy. But the thing is, he was just like, he was so frustrated because he's like, there's never enough time in a day. And this is what all the devotees, we should cultivate this consciousness, right? But we experience this too. All devotees experience this. There's never enough time in a day to glorify Radha and Krishna fully, to glorify their devotees, or to engage in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Every day feels too short. Every day feels too short. So it's like 24 hours isn't enough hours to do all the stuff we want to do in devotional service. It's always too little hours. You know what I mean? And that's what every day feels like. It's like, so, I mean, in the heavenly planets, yeah, the time frames are insanely vast compared to, you said this 4 days ago? See, I swear, like I posted a post on this. It was a joke post, obviously, but I was like, you know what? If I see one more 4, I'm literally going to strangle the next person that says these are my speculations that I'm putting in these videos. I'm literally going to strangle somebody if they try to claim that after the number of 4s I've seen over the last 2 weeks everywhere in the video that's encoded called Forever, that's about 4 and about numbers. So I'm just like, oh, transcendental strangulation. You know what I mean? And then, once again, the 4 sampradayas, the 4 chains of disciplic succession, which can be used to strangle people if they're misused, to literally choke the life out of their individual expression in devotion, which Radha doesn't want to happen. She wants the lines of devotion to be maintained as chains of devotion, but not used for strangling devotees. Okay? So Shri Radha's like, here, have this chain, use it to inspire devotees, to add more devotees to this chain infinitely into the future, but don't take the chain and use it to strangle yourself or your friends. You see what I mean? It's like, maintain your freedom of expression while adding links to that chain. You see what I'm saying? Don't use it to strangle yourself, though. It's like, so don't become like a robot that eliminates your individuality and never says or does anything unless it's 100% exactly what the pure acharyas did and said. It's like, no. Every pure devotee, every devotee in this line has to express their individuality. And that's the whole point. Because if you're not expressing your individuality, that's the same thing as impersonalism. So basically, if we're parroting off, not in the Shukadeva sense, but just in a mechanical sense, what the pure devotees are saying, the acharyas are saying, and not having our own realizations about it, like as our individual relationship with Krishna, etc., if we're just parroting off stuff only, our entire devotional life, then when we leave our bodies, no one will have anything to look back on as, oh, that's a unique contribution of that particular devotee in the future. It'll just be, okay, that's a devotee in the line, but they never contributed anything, like unique or individual or anything. It'll just be like, okay, there's another person in the line. But what ends up happening with those individuals is you're not able to inspire other individuals unless you express your individuality yourself. So Prabhupada explained things individually, distinct from the exact way Bhaktisiddhanta explained them. The same principles, the same teachings are all there, but the wording is always different. The expression is always different. The delivery of the message is always different and unique in every single case. It was different with Ayana Prabhu, different from Prabhupada, And it's different. It's going to be different with you, Madi, how you reveal it, different how I do it, different how you do it, Ishvaranandini, because this individuality of the living Jivatma, thank you, Ishvaranandini, specifically, my friend. You've been very uplifting to me over these last weeks. So this is the whole point. Like, don't ever mistake your infinitely unique individuality for being false ego. They're completely two different things. False ego is when you think hierarchically. Your individuality has nothing to do with hierarchy. It has to do with your infinite uniqueness. You don't think the Jivatma in your Svarupa, you don't think in terms of levels or ranks. You don't look at things like that. You look at things from, how is everyone infinitely unique and individual? How are Radha and Krishna specifically and especially like this? And how is everyone else like this? And how am I also unique and individual, distinct from everyone else? False pride is distinct from that. It's a different thing. False pride is where you're basically looking at yourself in terms of, I'm important, I'm in a position above others, I'm in some rank. That's false ego. Real ego is absorbing in your infinitely unique individuality, your freedom of expression in devotion. That's real ego, okay? Which is good. Real good beneficial ego is your Svarupa, your eternal identity. Okay? So don't ever mistake your false ego from real ego, or don't get the two mixed up as being one for the other. Okay? Always remember that your real ego is your infinitely unique individuality. False ego is hierarchical thinking. So if you're not thinking hierarchically, if you're not thinking in terms of ranks or being above others or things, you're not dealing with false ego. Because false ego is only when you're thinking you're superior to someone or something in some way. That's all false ego consists of, period. Okay? And the initial false ego begins by getting absorbed in using Radha and Krishna for your own sensual pleasure. And that's what causes the experience of the material world. So that's the second last remaining facet of it. But the majority of the false ego is already gotten rid of when you don't think hierarchically anymore. Okay? And you also don't think in terms of this communistic hippie idea of equality where where it's like, okay, we're not hierarchic, so that means everybody's equal. Like that. No, that's not what it means. Equality means everybody's infinitely unique. That's what equality is. That's what balance is and stuff like this. It's not like this whole like hippie idea where like it's either hierarchy or everybody's just the same. Is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The stupidest thing any of us have ever heard, I'm sure. It's completely like just an impersonalistic, stupid idea where it's like, oh, without hierarchy, it just means everything's the same, amalgamated. Oh, nope. It's like, nope, you're an eternal individual. And now, this is funny. I'm going over the 2-minute mark, so screw it. Screw the clock. Screw the time frames. It's like, this is just fun. So if we're like, you know, it's like there's people in the world, they're literally wanting to refuse the idea that they're eternally, infinitely unique and individual, eternally so. Like, there's this weird refusal of this actually being true. Now, why this is the case, this is very bizarre, actually, and I'm trying to figure this out, why people are thinking so foolishly like this. It's like, why would you even want to not have an eternal individuality or expression, and why would you prefer to just be an amalgamated oneness with everybody else? Why would anybody even want that? It's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because people will claim they want that, but then they'll write the next sentence go about, oh, it's all about expressing your uniqueness and individuality. But it's like, wait a minute, you just said 2 seconds ago that, that oh, nobody's special, nobody's unique. And then now you're saying, now focus on your individual expression. So it's like, which one is it? Is it your individual expression, or is it everybody being amalgamated into some oneness? It's like, it's one or the other. It's very clear cut. It's like, no, it's the individual expression that is the unity. Okay, so... You know, it's like, yeah, don't ever let anybody convince you, my friends, ever, that it's about, the devotional service is about basically not focusing on your uniqueness of expression. It never is that devotional service. Devotional service is all about your expressing your uniqueness in ever new, fresh ways. Like, that is what devotional service is about. It's what it's always been about, okay? In your relationship with Radha and Krishna and appreciating their uniqueness. So, you know, yeah, don't let any of these 7 people mislead you. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to end this off. You guys, I've covered this. We talk about this all the time, but anybody coming in who isn't familiar, and just always as a refreshing reminder, you can always identify one of the false 7 by what they're teaching. Number 1, there's always some loophole somewhere in what they're teaching or saying. There's always some little bit of thing left out that doesn't make sense and that doesn't fully correlate. Number 2, there's always going to be something about what they're saying or doing that's going to cause you some form of subconscious depression. Okay? Always. It's going to cause some subconscious depression in this form of, because, and the reason it's going to do that is because it's not accurate what they're teaching. Okay? Real accurate teachings don't cause subconscious depression. They don't. Like, subconscious depression comes from a false ideology being preached or being processed by you individually, even if that's not what's being taught. So if you're processing according to one of the 7, the way they process it, you're going to feel internally depressed or unhappy to some degree internally. Okay. Number 3, you can always tell because there's always going to be a middleman. There's always got to be a middleman with one of the 7 false ideologies. Always. There will never be a case, or in the case of the Prakriti Sahajas, they may be the one exception, I guess. Maybe the mystic devotees tinged with mysticism. It's going to be either there's always somebody as a middleman, or there's going to be a personality cult around somebody aside from Radha and Krishna and aside from Lord Chaitanya, okay, and Nityananda themselves. There's always going to be some other personality cult that has to be there. That's like the main thing over and above the actual your direct connection with Nityananda, Chaitanya, and Radha and Krishna. There's always going to be somebody else that's got to be like the center of focus or the big thing that's going on. And you can immediately know when that's the case that it's one of the false 7 ideologies. Immediately, you can spot them like this. And they will always teach things that have loopholes. Specifically about the eternal state of the living entity, they will never correctly or accurately or sensibly explain how living entities are all eternally in Goloka, nor will they ever accept this or understand this. Number 2, they won't understand the how and in what way, specifically, Radha and Krishna are interacting with us in everyone and everything, 24/7. And the third thing is they will not specifically understand, appreciate, or emphasize your infinite uniqueness either. Never will they do this. So those 3 things they won't do, and you know exactly what they will do as evidences and ways you can pinpoint the false teaching immediately. Okay? There you go. Right. So this is this has been a fun one. This has been a very fun one. What else? What else do we go into before I don't want to cut it off. I don't want to stop. You know, it's just fun. So yeah, basically, now we all know what to look for. Now we can all vouch for one another, especially and especially stand up for each other, because you know it's being confirmed to all of us together as a team, so we can all actually stand up for each other and work with each other, you know, to make this happen. Because devotional service in Krishna consciousness is about working together. It's about teamwork, right? So it's never about this individual, I'm just isolated stuff. Never. Even the ones who are chanting independently or individually, they're not doing so independently. They're actually working as a team with devotees doing other things elsewhere. And their mood is a teamwork mood. It's never going to be a mood of, I don't want to have anything to do with you, ever. No, Harinama Sankirtana mood is togetherness, okay? Teamwork. So this teamwork is actually going to be the source of teamwork, focusing on each individual's infinite uniqueness and emphasizing this. People from the outside, this will be the Sawe fair right here. Because people from the outside will have absolutely no reason whatsoever not to engage in Krishna consciousness or take part of it when their infinite uniqueness is the center of focus and attention in the relationship with Radha and Krishna. They won't have any reason, logical or otherwise, and they will recognize they don't have any logical reason to not take part in this or be involved once correct preaching starts spreading and taking place like this. Because now everybody's going to see the actual truth of Krishna consciousness. And the actual truth of Krishna consciousness is inspiring to everyone, factually, even on a subconscious level, if they don't recognize it on the surface. So, and this is why, like you said, Mahdi Hyrule, because years and years and years, myself and so many other devotees have been going, and I interview over and over and over again. We constantly, it's just constantly talking to the people with the ISKCON, but we have to function independently of that. Real ISKCON, Prabhupada's actual ISKCON, is all of us together, individually. It's within each individual. It's not an institution, not an externalized thing. The Interplanetary Society for Krishna Consciousness, actually, is the real thing. So IHS, and whatever name you go by on paper, the point is we're all International Harinama Sankirtana Movement. I decided to just put a different on paper name so people distinguish it, that we're not actually teaching the deviant teachings that they're teaching within ISKCON or the Rifics or anything else. That they recognize this, okay, this is specifically Harinama Sankirtana is the center, period. And they're free from institutions. It's about each and every individual worldwide. That's what IHSM is. That's what it's referring to. And therefore, we are now able to actually function independently and freely, not being mistaken for ISKCON leadership management, not being mistaken for some other devotional group or Gaudiya Math or anything like that. We're altogether recognized as a distinct, specific teaching, specific focus, specific center of emphasis, everything else, which is what Prabhupada taught, which Prabhupada taught, all the previous acharyas taught, but which are specifically what we all keep at the center, as what we identify as being actual devotional service, so on and so forth. So this is needed to happen for a long time. This is a really long time, because now devotees throughout the world will also have no excuse not to join in with us and take part in what we're doing throughout the world. There will be no reason not to, because they're going to be getting empowered through this individually now, empowered to actually function freely and get support from devotees all throughout the world in their daily Harinama Sankirtana activities and or activities that are facilitating of that and appreciative of that activity. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the times ahead. It's all been predicted, all been encoded, and we're seeing it play out before us, before our very eyes. Um, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what Radha and Krishna have in store more. You know, this VRA tech stuff, the detailed murtis and detailed forms manifesting through this technology, the life extension technology, all sorts of this stuff. It's been, you know, it's all been encoded there, and it's what's happening. It's what's coming in, you know. So we'll see what they have planned for it all, and it's going to be really trippy and interesting. It's going to be better than a comic book quality in terms of epicness and awesomeness. I always wanted my life to be more epic and more exciting and more just awesome than even the greatest comic book writer could ever fathom. I've always wanted this for my life. So we'll see. It seems like Radha and Krishna may actually arrange this for us. You know, that our lives are going to be this awesome, this exciting, and this epic, like a full spectrum. So I've prayed for this. We'll see if it actually happens, right? Okay, so it looks there's 7 emoticons right now, and we're covering the song 7. This is the moment I've actually had planning to trail it off, and then 33 comments. There we go. So 733. Here we go. All right. Well, thank you, my friends. All glories to you, Mari Harul. All glories to you, Ishvananandani. All glories to you, Andrew Taylor, because you were the one that found this video. Please, everyone, give him your full support and glorification. It's because of Andrew Taylor I found this video. I found this encoding. With him, I couldn't have done it. Or it may have happened, but it's Radha and Krishna specifically arranged that it came through him. And this is very significant. So, Hare Krishna, and may you all be blessed in your daily Harinama Sankirtana. Hare Krishna.